Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got quite a stack of sources you've pulled together.
Yeah, it's a snapshot from online conversations, mostly around June 5th, 2025.
And it really covers a lot of ground, doesn't it? Everything from, well, government finally getting efficient, maybe?
Right, that's in there. And then you swing over to the national debt just climbing and climbing.
Plus some pretty public friction between some big political names playing out.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to unpack these specific posts you found.
Go beyond just the headlines, understand what's really being said, the context from the sources themselves.
And try to figure out what it all might mean, for you listening and maybe the bigger picture.
It's a real mix. Technology, economics, personalities, all tangled together online.
It really is. We'll synthesize what's in these 11 posts, make sure we hit the different viewpoints, just lay out the facts as presented.
Okay, let's dive into the stack. We actually kick off with what sounds like some good news, at least according to one very prominent voice on X.
Yeah, source one. It's a post from @ElonMusk.
And he's praising the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, they call it?
Right. For apparently transforming the federal retirement process.
Yeah.
And the scale of the problem they tackled. Wow.
What are we talking about here?
Well, the source context says this was a 65-year-old system, paper-based, completely paper,
65 years, okay.
and is causing delays of, get this, 3 to 5 months in payments to retirees.
Months. So people retiring are waiting nearly half a year for their money.
Think about that. That's the reality this system created, just incredible friction.
And this post and the context you found says that's now down to days, as of June 2nd.
Yeah, months to days. That's the claim. That's a huge, huge change if it holds.
That would impact millions, right? Federal retirees finally getting paid on time.
It really underscores the human side of bureaucracy. The source notes mention Joe Gebbia, the Airbnb co-founder.
He joined DOGE.
Joined in 2025, apparently led this specific effort. And it succeeded where, well, decades of tries by the OPM, the Office of Personnel Management, had failed.
Decades. Okay, here's the detail that it sounds made up. The old system used 26,000 filing cabinets.
Yeah, 26,000, stored in an underground mine.
An underground mine for filing cabinets.
It paints a picture, doesn't it? Just how physically entrenched and outdated it all was.
Oh, absolutely.
And this reform is presented as part of DOGE's bigger mission, right? Cutting waste.
Is there a number on that?
The context from @JoyGov claims $175 billion saved overall. Canceled contracts, digitized systems. They say it works out to over $1,000 per taxpayer returned.
So this retirement fix is kind of their showcase example.
Well, it seems like it. A concrete case of tech, maybe some outside thinking, tackling massive bureaucratic inertia, taking it out of the mine, so to speak.
Okay, so from potential efficiency gains, we pivot hard to some major economic storm clouds in these posts.
Yeah, source 2 from @Saibuj. It's a stark alert.
The U.S. national debt heading for $37 trillion in June 2025.
That's the number flagged. And it's not just the number, it's the trajectory. The source context points to this steep upward trend, persistent deficits driving it.
Is there any counterpressure mentioned, like tariffs?
Well, the CBO projections cited in the context are interesting there. They suggest even if, say, Trump's proposed tariffs brought in $2.8 trillion over 10 years.
Yeah.
It might reduce deficits, sure, but the CBO also warned it could shrink the economy and push up inflation. So it's presented as a trade-off, not a simple fix.
And that debt to GDP ratio keeps popping up across the sources too, right?
It does. A key metric.
Yeah.
The sources mentioned it's been over 100% since 2013 using Treasury data.
And hit 123% in 2024, according to IMF data mentioned in Source 5's context.
Right. And projected around 115% by 2033 in Source 8's context, citing the Tax Foundation. It's clearly a recurring point of concern in these online discussions.
Any global factors mentioned?
Source 2 context does bring that in. It mentions things like China's rare earth export restrictions around that time potentially making debt worse by straining supply chains. Disruptions like that can slow the economy, cut tax revenue, maybe force more government spending. It all adds pressure.
Okay, so this huge debt conversation naturally leads into the tariff debate, which you said is in sources 3 and 9.
Exactly. And source 3, shared by @Atrupar, it captures this almost unbelievable moment from a congressional hearing
About bananas.
about a proposed 10% tariff on bananas.
Yeah.
Representative Madeline Dean is questioning Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
And what's the issue?
Dean points out Walmart had already raised banana prices by 8% just on the discussion of the tariff.
Okay.
But the highlight, the bit that got clipped, Zlotnick's response. He says something like, if you build it in America, there is no tariff.
Right. Standard line for tariffs. But
then Dean just comes back totally deadpan. We cannot build bananas in America.
Huh. It's funny, but it makes a serious point, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It cuts right to the core issue for certain goods. The source context even brings in the Banana Association, BMA.
What do they say?
They warn this specific tariff could cost consumers $250 million a year and wouldn't help domestic production at all because, well, we import almost all our bananas.
So it's just a cost increase with no upside for U.S. producers in that case.
That's the argument presented, yeah.
Then Source 9, from @BillyM2K, Shibatoshi Nakamoto asks bluntly if Trump's tariffs are super stupid.
It's direct. And the context provided for that post pulls in some data to back up that skepticism.
Like what?
Like a BBC report noting the U.S. economy shrank in Q1 2025, despite claims tariffs to boost manufacturing. And a 2024 study by David Otter finding the 2018-19 tariffs didn't actually increase jobs in the sectors they protected. Plus, foreign retaliation hit U.S. agriculture hard.
So intended effects versus actual outcomes.
That seems to be the theme. The source also notes the trade deficit dropped in April 2025.
Which sounds good.
But it was because imports fell. And CNBC, cited there, warned that risks an inventory crunch for retailers, especially small businesses relying on those imports.
So the picture on tariffs is complicated. Potential benefits maybe, but also potential downsides for consumers, other sectors, small business, especially for things we just can't make here.
That's what these sources suggest, yeah. A real tension between the goals and the practical realities.
Okay, these economic debates are obviously tied up with political figures. And Elon Musk features heavily in several of these posts.
That's very heavily. Source 5 from @Autism Capital gets right into it.
It describes Musk's criticism of a Trump tax and spending bill as a, what? High school pressure campaign?
Yeah. The source context explains that. Musk apparently called the $4 trillion debt ceiling increase in that bill a disgusting abomination. Strong words.
And the pressure campaign part.
That refers to him reportedly digging up Trump's own past statements from 2012-2013, where Trump argued against raising the debt ceiling. Musk was apparently using those old quotes to pressure Republicans to oppose Trump's current bill.
Wow, okay, turning past statements back on someone, that's quite a tactic.
It definitely got attention. And Source 7 from @Jason jumps into this fray.
What's that take?
They're urging the Trump administration to basically make peace with Musk, to build a bridge over these fiscal issues, specifically mentioning this one big beautiful bill, or BBB.
And that BBB bill is the one Musk objected to.
Seems so. Source 7 Context identifies it as a $3.8 trillion bill criticized for adding to the debt.
And Musk had specific issues with it, besides the debt ceiling part.
According to Axios, cited in the context, yes, he was apparently frustrated. He was rushed through with a manager's amendment, skipping a 72-hour review, and crucially, it eliminated EV tax credits.
Ah, the Tesla connection, direct hit.
Right. And @Jason's argument is that Trump listening to Musk on debt reduction would actually play well with his base, citing Heritage polls showing 68% of GOP voters prioritize that.
So it's framed as politically smart for Trump to engage.
Then you have Source 8 from @Konstantin Kizin taking a different angle but also focusing on Musk.
How so?
Kizin praises Musk's stance against this debt level, calls it genuinely heroic.
Heroic. Okay. Strong framing again.
Yeah, and it connects Musk's current opposition back to a statement he made in December 2024, where he actually argued against EV tax credits himself.
Wait, against his own company's benefit?
Apparently framing it as part of needing broader fiscal responsibility, maybe tying back to that DOGE efficiency focus we talked about earlier.
Interesting positioning.
Kazin's post really hammers the danger of peacetime debt accumulation. It says the U.S. debt to GDP trend is historically only seen in wartime, that it threatens stability. He argues Western economies need the same kind of debt scrutiny usually applied to lower-income nations.
So a lot of focus on Musk's economic commentary and his clashes with Trump's policies, which leads to the next question, right? How much influence does he actually have?
Exactly. Source 6 from Adam Hughes tackles that head-on. Was Musk's support critical for Trump's 2024 win?
And what's the evidence presented?
Well, on one hand, the source context mentions his significant financial backing, a $75 million donation to a pro-Trump PAC focused on key states. That's from a Guardian report.
$75 million is definitely not nothing.
Definitely not. But then the source brings in the counter-arguments from critics online.
Such as?
They point to Trump's existing strong base, his resilience through things like the assassination attempt, the arrests, arguing maybe Musk's late entry into the campaign after Biden dropped out wasn't the deciding factor.
So established momentum versus late-game booster.
Kind of, and the source context adds some electoral data from NPR. Republicans did flip the Senate, as Musk had predicted, but the House was apparently closer, suggesting maybe broader GOP gains were more key than just Musk's individual impact.
So, like the economics, the influence question seems debated. He's clearly a factor, but maybe not the single factor.
That seems to be the range of views presented in these sources, yeah. Complex picture.
And this high-level political drama, it actually filters down in some pretty funny, specific ways, according to another post.
Oh, yeah, source 10. From @Greg16676935420. This one's great.
What is it?
It points at Tesla owners apparently suddenly trying to remove anti-Elon stickers from their cars.
Seriously, how do they know that?
The source highlights a sudden spike in Google searches on June 5th for how to remove sticker from car.
Okay, that's pretty specific.
And the source connects it directly to Tesla owners reacting to this Musk-Trump feud, particularly over that BBB bill threatening the EV credits. Vox apparently reported on that link.
It's such a small thing, a sticker, but it shows how these big fights make people, like, literally change their public signals, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's a tangible ripple effect. The source even gives practical tips on sticker removal, using bug and tar remover, matching the search trend.
So why would they remove them now?
Well, the source suggests as Musk's own political profile shifts, Wikipedia apparently labels him libertarian far-right in the source context, and he clashes with Trump, who called him crazy over the bill. Maybe some owners who were critical before are rethinking it, either aligning with Trump now or just wanting out of the crossfire. Consumer identity getting tangled with political identity.
Fascinating. And one more Musk-related item.
Yes, source 11 from @BigTechAlert, just a factual observation. Musk unfollowed @CharlieKirk11 on X.
Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA founder.
Okay, a prominent conservative. The source notes Kirk had previously praised Musk for his free speech stance on X. So this unfollows. It's seen as potentially signaling a rift.
Just an unfollow, but it gets noticed.
The source suggests it's kind of a pattern for Musk. Using X, the platform he owns, to manage his public image, signal shifts, respond to controversies, like unfollowing a crypto journalist previously. Subtle, but noted.
Like digital body language, almost.
You could say that, a way of reading the signals among these public figures.
Okay, we've hit government, debt, politics, personalities. There's one more thread here, shifting gears a bit to tech and privacy.
Right, source 4. From @NS123ABC, and it captures pure user shock.
What's the post?
It's basically, wait, you're telling me my deleted ChatGPT chats aren't actually deleted? And a judge can look at them.
Okay, that hits a nerve for privacy expectations, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It speaks directly to what users assume delete means. The source context clarifies what happened. A federal judge ordered OpenAI on June 4th to preserve all ChatGPT logs. And that explicitly included chats users had tried to delete.
Why? What's the case?
It's part of that big copyright lawsuit from news publishers like the New York Times. They're claiming OpenAI used their content for AI training without permission.
So preserving potential evidence.
Exactly. OpenAI's policy might normally delete logs after 30 days, but a court order like this overrides that for the legal case. The source mentions a concern was users might delete chats specifically to hide evidence of using AI to get around paywalls, infringing copyright.
So the takeaway for anyone using these AI tools is what?
It's a stark example of that tension, right, between the AI, innovation, copyright law, and user privacy. It shows how these legal fights are actively shaping the rules for AI platforms. And it might mean rethinking what deleted actually means online, especially when legal processes get involved.
Your expectation of privacy might not hold up against a court order in a major lawsuit.
That seems to be the bottom line suggested here. Digital interactions, even ones you think are gone, might persist in ways you don't expect, especially in these high-stakes legal contexts.
Wow. Okay, we really did cover a lot from this snapshot of sources.
Yeah.
From government modernization finally happening, maybe,
to grappling with that enormous national debt and the complex arguments around tariffs.
Then seeing the very real, sometimes almost weird fallout from political feuds playing out online.
And landing on these fundamental questions about AI, copyright, and what happens to our data.
These posts from just one day, June 5th, really show how tangled everything is now, don't they? Online conversations jumping between tech, money, politics.
And how figures like Elon Musk seem to be right in the middle of so many of them. Government efficiency, national spending, public perception down to, yeah, bumper stickers.
So we've pulled out the key points, the context from your sources, tried to give you a clearer picture of what was being discussed.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you with a lot to think about, the speed and interconnectedness of it all.
So maybe here's a final thought for you to take away and chew on. As these high-profile personalities have such huge reach online, and technology keeps changing the game and these big economic forces loom, how is the fact that it all plays out so publicly, often in real time on social media, going to reshape how we understand policy debates and maybe even how we decide to engage with them or not in the future?